Florida Republican Congressman David Jolly, who is also an MSNBC political analyst. April Ryan is White House correspondent and Washington bureau chief for TheGrio. Tia Mitchell is Washington bureau chief for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Great to have all of you here. Okay, April, I think it's been a bit since you and I talked, but we saw each other not so long ago. We were talking a little bit about this then. But now, dozens of times, we just put it in a graphic, Donald Trump has promised to deal with this or that on day one. So what does your reporting tell you about where exactly he's prioritizing? Where is his focus?
His focus, one, is all over the place. Just remember when he was president the first time, he overturned a lot of executive orders from then President Barack Obama. He's going to do the same in this moment with this time Joe Biden. But 2 or 3 issues really stand out to me. Closing the border, okay, making sure the southern border is closed, and then also starting to cut inflation. That's a contradiction, because once you cut the southern border, there's a balance in the economy, as I've said before, and many economists have said, there's a balance in the economy to have migrant workers here in this country. So how do you stave off inflation by shutting out migrant workers? That's something I would like to see worked out. And then the next piece, revoking DEI. Now, any education system in this country or anything that has federal funds that is promoting and endorsing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the president plans to revoke federal dollars. What is that saying? It goes back to something I thought about with Carter G. Woodson in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro. Black people in this country have never really truly been educated properly. And now President-elect Donald Trump is going to make it worse.
So, Congressman, Axios described all of this, and I think, April just summarized some of it really well. They call it a early shock and awe campaign to lay the foundation for his ambitious second term. You see day one, do you think, as more about changing policy, a PR event to generate headlines? Will it be both? What are you looking for on January 20th?
Yeah, I think it will be. Understand, to effectuate policy change, there are kind of 3 mechanisms. The traditional how a bill becomes a law, that can't happen on day one. Regulatory rulemaking, where an administration exclusively issues and proclamates rules, that can't happen on day one. So what can happen by executive order or executive action? And you do see every president who has come in recent times with a list of executive actions, in part to kind of set the theme of their administration, but also effectuate real change. So from Aaron's reporting to April's comments, what could he do by executive action? He could revisit the Stay in Mexico policy and do some things around the border. He could certainly shut down DEI. He will probably cancel some of the union requirements when it comes to federal contracts. There will be some areas where he can really lean in. He could do tariffs on day one as well. You can do that by executive proclamation. So I think they are lined up. They have a lot of these drafted. He will do it to make a statement about the new direction of the country. But what I'm really looking for, Chris, is does he either in his inaugural speech or on day one through some type of executive direction revisit what he has promised, which is to prosecute his enemies? All this chatter around Liz Cheney, for instance, does he make the bold proclamation that his Department of Justice is going to go after political enemies? He's promised to do so. It would break some constitutional norms and arguably be fully unconstitutional. But we saw American carnage on day one of his first administration. What do we see on this one? It may be political prosecutions.
So, Tia, you operate in a state that Donald Trump flipped, right? And so you're a good person to talk about the folks out there who made a very conscious decision that he was going to make life better for them economically and otherwise. The conventional wisdom, I think, has been that Trump kind of now in his second term will understand more about how Washington works and he'll be more aggressive from the get-go. Is that what folks who voted for him are looking for? Do you think that he does understand better now than he did in his first term how to get things done?
So there are 2 ways of thinking about this. On one hand, people think that Donald Trump does have the 4 years of experience. He's got good advisors by his side like Susie Wiles, who can kind of keep him focused and on track. But on the other way of thinking it is that a lot of the checks and balances that existed during his first term don't exist as strongly anymore. The Supreme Court is more conservative. Congress is more MAGA, more Republican. Fewer members of Congress will be willing to stand up to Donald Trump. So the question is, how does he decide to forge ahead? What does he prioritize? I will tell you, the voters in Georgia, the voters generally nationwide, went with Trump mainly on his economic message, which was tied somewhat to his message about the culture wars and immigration, but it still all came back to the economy. They expect him to bring down the price of goods, to make gas more affordable, purchasing homes and cars more affordable. That's what they're looking at, the prices at the grocery store. And if there isn't quick change there, I think a lot of people will feel like they were disappointed after putting their trust in Donald Trump for another term.
We don't want to put too much into the stock market, but I don't know if we have the numbers and we can put them up. But I'm told that the Dow right now is down about 500 points. Is that what you said? About 500, yeah. So there it is. There's a Dow down 510. So April, there's a story today about how Donald Trump is preparing to wade into the fight, for example, over work from home. He wants all federal workers back in the office. There is no doubt that is going to create big pushback right away, including a union fight. Remind us, does public support matter to Trump? If a policy is unpopular, he doesn't have to run for re-election, right? So if a policy is unpopular, could that change his thinking?
The court of public opinion definitely matters to this president. I think about what happened with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz said he didn't want to be a distraction to the president. And guess what? The president accepted his pullback from the nomination from the Department of Justice. Also, I remember there was public outrage during a gun shooting when President-elect Donald Trump was president. And he had this big White House East Room forum. And then he was talking about, I want to do this. He sounded more like he was pro-gun and gun legislation than he was pro-NRA. And then I guess after that, the NRA talked to him because he was listening to the chorus of America, seeing kids get shot. And then he listened to the NRA and he changed his tune. This president listens to media. He could be watching right now, Chris, on MSNBC. He listens and then he responds on Twitter. So the court of public opinion is very important to him as a man who reveres his brand. Remember that. His brand is everything. And if it tarnishes a little bit about people who are disinterested in what he does, if it's a large number of people, he might change his opinion.
All right, so that brings me to Joe Biden, if I can, Congressman. I mentioned that he's kept a low profile. There's been a lot written, frankly, about the fact that he has not been out there. He's not been doing a big final press conference. April and I remember when Barack Obama did that one and went on and on and on. He touched on everything. He has issued, obviously, those high-profile pardons, which leads me to this question. Do you think that in his final days, final couple of weeks here, Joe Biden continues as he's been, or could he have something else up his sleeve?
I think he continues. I mean, it's the perfect contrast between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Donald Trump chases the sizzle but doesn't worry about second and third order effects. So he's not going to bring down prices, but he will try to get money moving and create greater wages and greater economic growth. But he will sacrifice long-term stability and perhaps unsettle some world markets. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has shown us what sober, steady leadership looks like at the economy and on the world stage. So, look, I think you'll hear from Joe Biden the themes of his presidency. He restored democratic norms in the country after the first 4 Trump years. He grew the economy by reducing inflation, increasing real wages. More people went to work today than ever before. He invested in infrastructure. Access to health care and education and home ownership remain at all-time highs. But he did it slow and steady to carefully make sure that we didn't kind of crash the car as he was doing this. And on the world stage, when wars were breaking out, he used just the amount, the right amount of Western influence and U.S. leadership in both the Middle East and the Ukraine to ensure that the forces of good had an opportunity to fight for the right. Now, there's criticism. Certainly in the Middle East, people have said maybe he should have done more to try to tame in Israel's moves against Gaza. But ultimately what he did is he kept us out of the conflicts while realizing that these are real sober world matters that need to be engaged in. Donald Trump is the opposite of that. He will end the wars, if he does, he says, but ultimately by surrendering to Vladimir Putin or by unleashing Netanyahu to do whatever he wants unchecked. Biden, I think, will go out like he came in, sober, steady, and within the traditions and norms of the presidency.
David Jolly, April Ryan, Tia Mitchell, Happy New Year. I won't see you all before then, but Happy New Year. Thanks for being on the program. Appreciate it.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Thank you.
Happy Kwanzaa. Absolutely. In 90 seconds, how the head of the World Health Organization was caught in the middle of Israeli strikes at